Let's dive into a story that starts with a beautiful girl calling our hero brave. She's thanking him for saving the world, but it's just a character in a game. Our real protagonist, Kono Yudo, has just cleared his 99th heroine. Yep, Yudo is just an ordinary high schooler with one major exception. Suddenly, his dad bursts into the room, shouting that it's time for morning training. He demands Yudo hurry, but Yudo protests that there's still plenty of time. He yells at his old man not to barge in, but his father is dead serious. He just slowly closes the door, saying he'll be waiting. Yudo can only sigh. He's frustrated with the hardcore Kono-style martial arts his father forces on him. I mean, does anyone really need skills like this in a world this peaceful? It's not like they're living in some alternate world ruled by a demon lord. A few moments later, Yudo's sporting a massive bump. His dad did not hold back. He gets into his school uniform, but then remembers something important he has to do. Before heading out, he needs to decide which heroine to go for next. In the tiny gaps between school and training, Yudo just grinds out games. From dating sims to huge AAA titles, and with a rush of excitement, it's time. Time to choose his 100th heroine. He scans the options and picks a beast girl. An animal-eared slave girl choosing the route to save her. Later, Yudo is on the train. He can't stop yawning, totally exhausted from his brutal morning workout. That plus staying up all night gaming has completely wiped him out. He dozes off. And right here, this is where his entire world changes. Watch this. A magic circle engulfs him, leaving his school bag behind as he vanishes from the train. When he wakes up, he's not on the train anymore. He is completely lost. He should be on his usual route, but then he hears a gruff voice nearby. Yudo turns and is shocked to see a boar man standing there with other animal hybrids. They're all surrounding him. He has no idea who or what these people are. Their boss asks his second-in-command, Crane, if the newcomer has any unique skills. But Crane just stammers, saying this guy Yudo has absolutely zero special abilities. Nothing. Furious, the boss grabs Crane by the collar, demanding an answer. He roars, "Aren't humans summoned from other worlds supposed to have unique skills?" Crane, trembling, insists his magic eye is never wrong, and yet. He swears Yudo has no notable power. Hearing this, Yudo starts to process it. He's thinking, summoning, that's a super common trope in all his games. And I know what you're thinking, is this actually really happening to him? Yudo touches the floor. The animals smell the gritty stone under his fingers. It all feels way too real. Crane tries to explain the situation to his boss. He says if his magic eye can't see a skill, it must be some kind of unknown power. A hidden unique skill. The boss isn't buying it, slamming Crane to the ground. He screams that it's just fantasy nonsense. Furious, he wasted a fortune. All that money on a summoning stone for nothing. One of the minions speaks up. Should we try selling him as a slave? That's Yudo's cue. He stands up ready to run. But suddenly a massive sharp blade is pointed right at his head. He freezes. The boss yells that a male slave with no skills is completely worthless. Kill him, he orders. His minions eagerly respond, one thrusting a spear at his head. With insane reflexes, Yudo dodges, and you and I are about to see what happens next. He thrusts 2 fingers forward, piercing the pig's neck, and the creature drops. It's an instant kill. Blood gushes as both the boss and Crane just stare in shock. But Yudo just smiles. You and I are about to see how all his father's ridiculous training finally pays off. The Kono-style martial arts, after all, was a totally unconventional combat system. Its entire goal was to combine and steal the best parts of every fighting style. To become the ultimate martial art, techniques from the Russian military. Muay Thai, wrestling, savate, Aikido, judo, you name it, it was part of the style. Yudo had mastered over 60 different martial arts, and it wasn't just talent. No, his insane mastery came from a single burning desire. He needed more time for gaming, and he'd train with laser focus to get it. Yudo punches Crane and kicks another pig-headed goon right in the neck. Both drop dead instantly. As he tears through them, he gets a strange thought. Even though he still can't stand his dad, this is oddly satisfying. He wonders if a part of him actually craved a real fight. In minutes, it's over. Now pay attention. All the pig creatures are dead, leaving only the boss, who's stammering in disbelief. He can't understand how the powerless Yudo did this, and trembling, he asks, "Who are you?" Yudo was about to give his name, but then he remembered his dad's words. He was the heir to the Kono style, and he should always introduce himself like it. Dashing toward the boss, Yudo makes his introduction. Kono Yudo, he says, punching the boss square in the chest. Just your ordinary high school student, he adds, the boss goes flying. He smashes against the wall and dies instantly, and in that very moment. The man who would one day be feared as the demon lord was born in this new world. Seeing the orc-like bodies everywhere, Yudo realizes something sobering. He survived, but he also took a life. Things were getting complicated fast. He knew he had to find a way back to his own world before this situation got worse. No phone, no game console. Yudo felt completely stranded, but then he spots a glowing display in front of the dead boss, introducing him as Gildarts. An orc, a slave trader, no unique abilities. It looked just like a game window. So Yudo figures it out, his enemies were orcs, not some weird pigs. Then the system appears right in front of him. And yeah, you and I both know what this is, his own status window. He stares, wondering if this is really his. Examining the screen, he sees 3 unique abilities. Skill Taker, Slave Contract, and Evil Eye. Yudo is totally confused. How did he get 3 unique abilities when he was supposed to have none? He clicks on Skill Taker and reads the description, the power to steal abilities from defeated foes. He can't help but laugh at the irony, just like he mastered martial arts by stealing techniques. He now had the power to steal monster abilities, and that also meant the other 2 skills probably came from the orcs he just wiped out. Yudo figures the status window must be linked to his new Evil Eye ability. And Skill Taker was probably so rare that the power couldn't even detect it. Thinking about how he was just randomly summoned to this world, he feels a small flicker of hope. Maybe the heavens hadn't totally abandoned him. With Skill Taker and Evil Eye on his side, he's more determined than ever. And you know what? He's going to find his way back home to conquer that 100th heroine. Meanwhile, in Aspen City, the royal capital, a beast woman sits in an inn, completely lost in a book called Hero. Ark Schwarz, she smiled, thinking that no matter how many times she read about him, Ark was perfect. But her daydream is cut short when someone calls her name. Startled, Spa jumps. She rushes to the front desk, apologizing for making the customer wait. The woman tells her to go greet them, and she quickly agrees. As she hurries outside, Spa can't help but wonder, will a strong, handsome man with black hair and black eyes ever appear in her life? And at that exact moment, Yudo, who fits that description perfectly, is busy exploring. He's searching this unfamiliar world, salvaging whatever he can from the orcs he just dropped. Yudo knows that gathering information is the only way he's getting home. He figures he can't be the only one who was summoned to this place. Others must be out there, probably with their own unique skills. He just has to find them. For now, though, he focuses on searching for anyone in similar circumstances. Rummaging through the orc boss's things, he finds some local cash. He knows money and resources are absolutely essential for survival, so with a quick apology to the corpse, he pockets the coins and spots a bag lying on the ground. Turns out it's a 4-star magical bag with a limited but useful capacity. A personal inventory letting him store and retrieve items instantly. Not bad. He immediately stores his spears, money, and clothes, then swaps into a fresh outfit. But as he heads for the exit, Yudo finds his path blocked by a tiny level 1 red slime. At first, he's not even sure it's a real monster. It just hops toward him looking kind of cute, but don't blink because what happens next is wild. The slime suddenly morphs into a massive, monstrous version and tries to swallow him whole. Yudo wastes no time, whipping a spear from his bag and stabbing the creature. Slime splatters everywhere. It was an easy fight, but a good reminder to stay on his toes. Yudo then wonders if defeated monsters drop money or items, just like in a video game. Because if they don't, fighting them might not even be worth the trouble. But to his surprise, a system message pops up right in front of his eyes. He's gained a point in a new trait, Fire Resistance. The progress bar shows 1 out of 10. So he needs to take down 9 more of these things to max out the skill. Easy enough. He decides to hunt them down quickly, but a whole swarm of red slimes surrounds him. They all leap at him at once. Overwhelmed, he makes a break for it. He sprints toward a nearby cliff to get some distance and spots a town down below. A little while later, Yudo arrives at the town gate. A sign reads Expend, the royal capital of Lordland. He's shocked that he can somehow read the local language perfectly. After wandering around for a bit, he learns the people here are just called the human race. And since he looks like them, he blends right in. But that's also a problem. It means even with his evil eye ability, he can't tell who's a local. And who might be another summoned person from a different world like him. Realizing this might take a while, Yudo decides to find an inn and rest up for now. He walks into the first inn he sees and is greeted by a familiar-looking girl. And you and I both know who it is. Spa welcomes him warmly, asking if he needs a room. Using his evil eye, he sees her full name is Spa Brunel, a member of the lion race. Her job is listed as maid with no special abilities. He's a little surprised to see a girl with beast ears and thinks she's actually pretty cute. She tells him a room is 400 Ria a night and then asks for his name. Even in pain, he follows her down the hall, taking in her charm but also noticing something else. Her clothes are completely tattered. Yudo wonders if she's so poor she can't even afford a proper outfit. Finding it a shame, he follows Spa as she guides him to his room. She tells him she'll bring breakfast in the morning and wishes him a good night. But when Yudo enters the room, he's surprised to find just a simple, single bed. For a second, he wonders if he should have picked a better inn, considering he chose this one on a whim. But he's too tired to care. It's been a long day, so he just lies down. He's completely exhausted. Yawning, he thinks that at least here no one will wake him up for training. He can finally get some real rest. Hours later, Yudo's eyes shoot open. Someone is calling his name over and over. Startled, he looks up to see his father. Standing there absolutely fuming, his dad swings a fist right at him, screaming that it's time for training. He yells that Yudo needs to get up now. The shock sends Yudo jolting awake for real. He realizes it was all just a nightmare. You and I both know he's still in another world. Frustrated, he sits up, blaming the strange dream on the uncomfortable bed. He thinks again that maybe, just maybe, he should find a better inn tomorrow. Just then, a knock comes at his door. He opens it to find Spa looking cheerful. She greets him warmly and tells him she's brought his breakfast. His plan to find a new inn instantly vanishes as he's reminded of just how cute she is. Spa sets the food on his table while he thinks about his money, which is quickly running out. He needs to find a job fast. He mentions to her that he's looking for work in town. He asks if she knows any good places. Surprised, she confirms what he just said. She asks if he's serious about finding work. Yudo replies confidently, yeah, he is. He mentions he's a martial artist and figures he's pretty capable. Now pay attention, this is where his whole journey starts. Spa excitedly suggests the Adventurers Guild. She explains they take on quests for rewards, often involving monster hunting. Yudo immediately thinks of how games work. Joining the guild means he can make money. But not just that, he can also level up his unique skills and abilities. Thanking her for the tip, he hands her a coin. Spa's eyes go wide, it's a silver coin. That's worth 1,000 Ria. She asks if he made a mistake, thinking he meant to give her a 10 Ria iron coin. But he assures her it was on purpose. Blushing, she tells him the silver coin is a huge deal. It's equal to her entire week's wages. Yudo hesitates for a second, wondering if it was too much. But he decides to stick with it, telling her to keep it. He says it would be awkward to take it back now. Spa shyly tries to protest again. So Yudo suggests she use the money to buy some new clothes, telling her she's cute and deserves it. His words leave her completely stunned, her tail wagging as she tries to hide her blush. Shocked, she asks if he really truly thinks she's cute. He just says yes. Covering her face, Spa can't believe it. She's getting complimented by someone who looks just like Schwarz, the legendary hero who saved their entire world 500 years ago. To hear those words from someone with the same black hair and black eyes as her hero. It leaves her completely flustered. After breakfast, Yudo grabs his coat and heads out. He tells Spa he's off to the guild. She wishes him luck. And shyly calls him by his name, Yudo. A little later, he arrives at the Adventurers Guild. The place is bustling with energy. He makes his way over to the reception desk. The woman there greets him, immediately noting that he's a new face around here. And with a warm smile, you and I are about to watch him take his very first step. She officially registered him as an adventurer under the name Kono Yudo and handed him his quest list. As he stared, captivated, you can guess what happened. His evil eye activated, revealing her name. Alia Garrett, a human working for the guild. But she possessed a ridiculously powerful ability, Arm of God Destruction. They call it the Breaker, and it lets her left hand cancel the magic of anything it touches. Yudo is completely floored by her strength, but quickly composes himself as Alia notices his stare and asks if anything's wrong. He just brushes it off, saying everything's fine. Alia then shows him a list of quests perfect for his level, and asks if he's interested in any of them. Yudo's response is pure confidence. He'll take every single subjugation quest on the list. She just nods, understanding. Internally, though, he's thinking the pay is pretty low, especially since he has to kill around 30 monsters in just 2 nights. For a moment, he wonders if he should look for work outside the guild for better pay. Alia then hands him a beginner's set and wishes him a safe journey. He accepts, deciding to give these quests a shot. Later, deep in a nearby forest, Yudo is hiding behind a bush, watching a group of monster bats fly overhead. He takes aim and lets his spear fly, cleanly taking down 2 of them in a single strike. Approaching the fallen creatures, he does a quick count. That's 10 monsters down so far, time to start harvesting. He needs the proof of subjugation, but honestly, it's frustrating. The fighting itself isn't hard at all, but collecting the evidence is just tedious. After finally finishing, he opens his system menu, getting ready for the next part of his plan. He sees his wind magic skill has hit level 2 and notes he'll need to kill 20 more bats to reach the next tier. He recalls that his level 1 wind magic was about as powerful as a fan on low setting, and wonders how much stronger it's become. He activates it, releasing a small gust, only to watch the flowers in front of him barely even sway. Seriously disappointed, he figures it's now like a fan on high. Still pretty much useless in a real fight. Now this is where you and I expect one of those classic Magic Academy moments. You know, where the beginner's magic accidentally causes a scene by lifting skirts. Yeah, his wind magic is nowhere near that powerful. He figures he'll just have to keep grinding. After a successful hunt, Yudo returns to the adventurer's quarters at the guild. Alia greets him warmly, thanking him for all his hard work. She hands him his reward for completing the quests, and also has some good news. He's been promoted, which means he can now take on much more challenging jobs. Looking down at the coins, a surge of pride hits him. This is his first real, hard-earned money in this brand new world. Alia asks him how his first quest went and if it was difficult. Yudo replies that it wasn't too bad, though collecting the proof of a monster's defeat was actually harder than just taking them down. Alia suggests that if he finds harvesting to be a real hassle, he should consider partying up with some friends. She also mentions that he can buy better weapons right there at the guild's authorized store, which would help him take on tougher monsters. Yudo leaves the guild thinking about what she said. Friends, sure, allies would make everything easier. But he knows his real identity has to stay a complete secret, which would quickly become a major problem. And that's where we leave him, stuck with this impossible choice. Alright, stick with me, because just as our guy was getting used to this game-like world, he heard a scream. A woman was shouting, "Let me go." Startled, he looks over and sees a man gripping Spica. She's the inn's maid, and 2 thugs are harassing her, yelling at her to be quiet. Yudo steps closer, asking what's going on. Spica notices him, but the bald goon turns. Furious, he grabs Yudo by the collar, demanding to know who the hell he thinks he is. He tells him to mind his own business, but Yudo, he calmly grips the man's hand. And squeezes, he says it would be better if they answered his question first. The other man, stuttering nervously, explains they're just debt collectors. He even shows Yudo a contract detailing the huge debt that Spica's late father left behind. A total of 55,000 rhea. The bald guy adds that Spica has been paying it off slowly. But they found it too troublesome and decided to just sell her to a slave trader. He smirks, saying that as a werewolf, her good looks would make her very valuable. Without hesitation, Yudo pulls out a pouch of gold coins and hands them over. He declares that he's paying her debt. The bald man catches the coins, his eyes wide. He eagerly checks if they're real, while his partner just gawks in total disbelief. He asks if Yudo is some famous adventurer to have so much money. Yudo tells them to hand over the contract. They quickly do, before running off and thanking him for his patronage. Yudo crumples the contract in pure rage, but then thinks better of it. He slips it into his bag and then notices Spica staring at him in amazement. You can see she's visibly touched. As the sun begins to set, he suggests they head back. Back to the inn, Spica just nods in agreement, but as they walk, Yudo is groaning inside. He just realized he used up all his money just to play the hero. Then Spica calls his name. He turns to see her looking at him with a mix of gratitude and guilt. She thanks him for his help and apologizes, tears welling up in her eyes. She confesses that she caused him so much trouble, and her ears droop in sadness. He can't help but think she looks adorable. He quickly reassures her, telling her not to worry. After all, the money he gave her is what made her a target in the first place. But she insists it was her fault for not paying her father's debt and vows to return the money. Then, blushing, she shyly asks if he would allow her to repay him in some other way. Now you and I both know something big is coming. Yudo, surprised, asks what she means. Spica hesitates, then softly requests that he let her be his slave. This leaves Yudo completely shocked and confused, as Spica repeatedly bows, apologizing. She says she overstepped by even suggesting it, explaining she was too lowly for such a thing. Far too lowly to assume that position. Yudo, flustered, stammers as he asks why. Why would she even want to be his slave? She explains her job requires her to be a good judge of character. And she believes he is destined for great things. She wants to be there to witness it. Yudo quickly downplays her praise. He explains he only used a simple farming trick to gather some resources. Besides, having a slave seems like it would be a bit troublesome, but Spica points something out. It's actually common for adventurers in this world to travel with slaves. In fact, it might even look unnatural for him to be walking around without one. This makes Yudo pause. He feels a little shy. If that's the custom here, maybe having a companion wouldn't be so strange. Spica then bows again, stammering as she makes a promise. She swears she'll do anything he asks if he accepts her as his slave. And here's the moment we've been waiting for. Yudo finally agrees, but adds that what he's really looking for is a friend. He calls her by her name, Spa, and as he welcomes her as a friend, her tail starts to wag like crazy. She thanks him but then pauses, suddenly realizing something. She asks if she'd ever actually told him her name. Yudo apologizes and explains he has this unique skill called Evil Eye that lets him see people's statuses. And trust me, Spa's eyes absolutely light up. She asks if he's a skill holder and Yudo just gives a cool nod. He then asks if this slave contract skill lets him form a slave relationship on his own. Spa eagerly explains that, yeah, normally you'd have to pay a fee at the Slave Traders Guild to set up a contract. But because of his skill, he can do the whole thing himself. Her eyes are sparkling with excitement, and Yudo starts to wonder if she actually enjoys this whole submissive thing. She begs him to start the contract right away, so he bites his finger, draws a little blood, and presses it to her hand. A mark forms, sealing the deal. Spa proudly shows off the new mark, exclaiming she's now officially his slave and he's her master. She even does an excited little jump, and Yudo can only marvel at how weird this all is. I mean, who would have guessed a beast girl would become his first companion in this new world? She sweetly calls him master and explains that with the mark, she's now physically unable to disobey his commands. She tells him to try giving her an order, but he just freezes, caught totally off guard. She assures him she'll follow any command he gives. Now feeling a little mischievous, Yudo thinks back to some of the games he's played, where you could use basic magic for silly things, like lifting skirts. So he gives a hesitant command, muttering underwear. Honestly, he's just curious about what kind of clothes even exist in this world. You know, compared to the games he's used to. As he's thinking, he recalls that in other Isekai'd games, you see all kinds of traditional or unique underwear styles. And let's be real, something about Spa's total obedience is bringing out his playful side. Confused by the vague command, Spa asks him to be more specific. Flustered, Yudo manages to order her to lift her skirt and show him. Spa is visibly shocked by his command. But the contract mark on her hand glows, forcing her to lift her skirt, revealing a pair of pink lace underwear. Yudo takes a mental note. Even though this is a totally different world, those look a lot like stuff from modern Japan. This gets him wondering, have other people been summoned to this world before him? Maybe they influenced the local fashion trends. Or maybe these kinds of undergarments were just made popular by some local artisans. Either way, the origin of that fashion is a total mystery. Spa, now looking a little uncomfortable, asks Yudo how much longer she has to hold this pose. That snaps him back to reality. He realizes the order won't stop unless he actually cancels it. He quickly apologizes and tells her she can put her skirt back down. As she fixes her clothes, she says with a shy smile that it was pretty cruel of him to give such an embarrassing command out of nowhere. But Yudo can't help but notice her tail wagging just a little bit, which tells him she maybe didn't hate the experience as much as she let on. As he watches her standing there quietly, ears twitching, he realizes she looks like she's waiting. Waiting for a reward, he smiles, reaches out and pats her on the head, praising her for following his orders so well. And just like that, Spa's face lights up with pure joy. He kept patting her head, wondering to himself if this was some kind of dynamic. Maybe like the carrot and stick method, or even training a pet in a game. Spica then softly tells him that while she'd get in big trouble if he did this in public. Right now, she's willing to do absolutely anything he asks. Yudo's caught completely off guard, but then he notices her tail wagging even faster. So he just smiles, nods, and gives her a formal handshake. Inside, he's thinking about how wild this whole situation is. Getting a slave companion was never part of the plan, but he figures it'll be fine. He won't have to give her that many orders anyway, later back at their inn. Spica walks up to Yudo and hands him a small pouch, a gesture of repayment. He peeks inside and finds 3,000 rhea, confused where it came from. She explains it was severance pay from the landlady where she used to work. And get this, for 4 whole years of work, that's all she got. Pretty rough. Yudo immediately tries to refuse, saying he can't take something so important from her. But Spica insists, saying it's because of the debt from her revival. He assures her she can pay him back by doing quests with him instead. After a moment, Spica looks at the pouch, then back at him. She shyly says there's somewhere she wants to go a little later. And just like that, Yudo finds himself in a fancy inn, enjoying his first hot shower in 2 days. He's totally blown away that this kind of plumbing even exists in this world. Turns out it's powered by water Mona stones, a core from a blue slime with water magic. He steps out of the bathroom in a robe, casually telling Spica she leveled up. But what he finds waiting for him, trust me, it's not what he expected. She's standing right there in some very alluring lingerie, looking super nervous. She admits she has no idea how to act in a moment like this, and asks for any order. Yudo is just frozen, stunned into silence for a second, but a part of him kind of knew a situation like this was going to come up eventually. Until now, he's only ever interacted with girls in video games. Classic gamer brain. But even so, he feels a natural pull towards her, a real longing. Is it okay to move this fast when they just met? He's torn. But her allure is undeniable. He realizes he doesn't want to hold back. He moves closer, gently laying her down as she looks up at him sweetly. Go ahead, she says, give me the order. Yudo reaches for the cabinet, hoping to find something specific, but it's completely empty. Uh-oh. Spica notices him hesitating and asks if something's wrong. He stammers, explaining he was looking for any contraceptives. She just gives him a blank stare and asks what a contraceptive even is. And in that moment, the crushing weight of reality hits him. What if she gets pregnant? He knows he plans to return to his own world someday. He can't just leave her. Taking this any further could mean abandoning her with a child, a heavy thought. Lost in his head, all he can manage to say is, "Come here," surprising her. She nods and walks over. He pulls her into a hug, holding her tight. Spica, completely confused, softly calls out his name, but he just holds her closer. He tilts her face toward his and apologizes, asking if they can just stay like this tonight. And when she asks if that's an order, he says yes. We just saw his true character, didn't we? All right, let's see how our new power couple spends their first morning together. He plans on visiting a weapon shop, and she immediately offers to tag along. But he tells her to stay behind. Confused, she asks him why. He explains that while adventurers with slaves are common, he has his reasons. He only just got her yesterday, and bringing her along might raise too many questions. They still have some time before checkout, so he suggests she take the chance to relax. He leaves, hoping his decision doesn't hurt her feelings too much. It could feel like he's pushing her away. Later at the weapon shop, Yudo meets Adolf Rudolph, a human merchant with the unique skill, appraisal. Adolf offers to buy the orc spear, staff, and clothes for a total of 8,900 Ria. Adolf also mentions he'll put any of the rare items up for auction. He suggests Yudo should return the day after tomorrow to check on the sale. Yudo agrees. Looking at the sword, Adolf is amazed he managed to find something so rare. For a second, Yudo wonders if the guy suspects something about his real origins. Now pay attention, Adolf simply praises him, remarking that Yudo seems incredibly strong. He even comments on his impressive muscle tone. Yudo smiles, feeling relieved, though he can't shake the feeling that he's being watched. As they talk, Adolf advises Yudo that he should consider buying a slave with his auction earnings. He explains that adventurers often get into fights over how to split the rewards. And slaves, they offer a much simpler solution. Yudo just keeps quiet. He already has Spica as his companion. Adolf keeps on talking though. He recommends that if Yudo buys a slave, he should go to a guild-approved store. Curious, Yudo asks if stores like that even exist, and Adolf confirms they do. The high demand for slaves among adventurers led to plenty of well-established, trustworthy shops. If he's interested, Adolf adds, Yudo should just go and see for himself. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit slave shop, a young woman sits quietly inside a cage. Her wrists are bound with wooden handcuffs, just waiting for what comes next. A moment later, he returns to the luxury inn and apologizes for keeping her waiting. But she just greets him with a massive, bright smile, welcoming him back warmly. She then asks him if he managed to find anything good. He replies, oh yeah, he did. He says he got himself a sword and that he also brought a knife for her. He points out that it's supposed to be way sharper than the ones the guild provides. She carefully takes it out, seeing it as a precious gift from her master. And you can feel it too, right? She sweetly thanks him, promising to treasure it with her life. A little worried, he suggests that they put it away for now. He then remembers Adolf's advice about buying another slave. But as he looks at Spica happily admiring her new gift, he knows he doesn't need anyone else. He then tells Spica that now that they have their weapons, it's time to take on a quest. She excitedly agrees. A short time later, they arrive at the guild. He tells Spica to wait for him at the entrance once again. She asks why she has to wait outside but reluctantly agrees, asking him to return quickly. He can't help but feel like an owner leaving his dog behind to go to work. Inside, Emilia greets him and shows him the available quests. He's currently QR2. As he reviews the list, he notices more monsters are now available for hunting quests. But one quest in particular catches his eye. A huge reward for 200,000 Riaya. Model to catch the kidnapper, Emilia asks if he's even aware of what's been happening. He admits he hasn't heard a thing about the recent disappearances in town. I mean, give him a break. He's only been in this world for 3 days. With a heavy heart, Emilia explains it all started about 2 months ago, right here in Zen. The target's all teenage girls, and despite the knight's investigation, nothing. The culprit is still out there, forcing the king himself to ask the guild for help. A wave of concern hits him. If that's the case, Spa could be a target too. He has to be careful, can't leave her alone, and then it hits him she is alone. She's still waiting back at the guild. He quickly tells Amelia he's on the case. He'll start by taking on all the hunting quests. She nods, understanding his plan. He rushes outside to find Spa greeting him with a bright smile. He's just trying to breathe. He tells her how relieved he is to see her, which only leaves her looking totally baffled. Later, when they reach the Lagal Mountains, he checks in with Spa, telling her to speak up. If she gets tired, she needs to let him know, but she just assures him she's fine. Turns out, as a lion, she's from a pretty tough race, built for this kind of work. When he asks if she's ever fought monsters, she admits she hasn't since she rarely leaves town. But she quickly adds with a slight panic in her voice that she'd face anything for him. She'd risk her life to protect him, even though the very thought makes her tremble. He just laughs, telling her he'd much rather she stay safe and let him do the dirty work. Her job, just focus on finding the monsters. That's a deal she can get behind. A moment later, she senses something. She whispers to him that a monster is close. Now watch this teamwork in action. She points out a red slime just off to the side. He casually picks up a rock from the ground, praising Spa for her sharp senses. He winds up for the pitch, announcing it's time to get this hunt started. He hurls the stone with incredible force. A direct hit, the slime is instantly obliterated. It splatters everywhere as Spa just stares in awe, amazed at his skill. She exclaims how impressive it is to take down a target from that far without a bow. He just shrugs, saying that throwing things just feels more natural to him. But he might consider a bow later, depending on the enemy. He then asks Spa to handle the skinning, wondering if she's up for the task. She confidently replies that she used to work at an inn, so knives are no problem for her. She crouches by the slime, pierces it with her knife, and goo oozes everywhere. He notes that most people would be screaming right now, but not her. Her calm focus is impressive. She pulls out the slime's crystal core. Okay, let that sink in. She proudly declares she's finished, and he can't help but wonder, is she a Yandir? Gently, he wipes some of the slime's blood from her face, thanking her for her help. He praises her good work, and you can see the relief wash over her face. He suggests they keep gathering materials, and she eagerly agrees. Let's go. They spend the next few hours fighting and skinning monster after monster. As the sun starts to set, he tells her they've made some incredible progress. He gives her all the credit, saying her keen sense of smell was a huge help. But she gets flustered, insisting it was all because of his insane strength. She's never even heard of anyone taking down this many monsters in a single day. Her words make him pause. He thinks back on all his brutal training. And you and I both know it was all worth it, just to see her smile like that. Alright, time for a power-up check. You and I are about to see if his wind magic has leveled up. He pulls it up. Yep, it's currently level 3, with progress at 12 out of 30. Time for a test drive. He tells Spica they need to find a more secluded spot. He asks her to step back a bit. She looks confused, but she does what he says. Then he activates his wind bomb skill, letting a compressed orb fly into the air. Spica's jaw drops. She stammers out that it's absolutely incredible. But he's not so impressed. The range is short and it's slow, he might as well just punch them. So he tries something else. What if he channels that magic to his feet? Could it supercharge his martial arts? He widens his stance, deciding to focus. Instead of his hands, all that magic flows right into the sole of his foot. He jumps, and the wind magic launches him way higher than he ever could before. Astonished, he realizes this is way more useful than he thought, while Spica just stares in awe. The second he lands, she's shouting about how amazing that was. She can't believe it. Flying with magic until she sees it, his foot is bleeding from the force. Instantly alarmed, she rushes over, sits him down, and says she'll heal him right now. She casts a spell, and his foot is enveloped in a gentle, healing light. He watches, shocked, as the wound closes up. He asks if that was her healing magic. He had no idea she could use it, but her answer shocks him even more. She explains it's just basic holy magic, nothing special. Then she gives him a rundown. There are 5 types of magic: fire, water, wind, holy, and cursed, and everyone here can use one. That's when it clicks. He looks at her and asks if she's finally figured it out. She just nods. With a knowing look, she asks if her guess is correct. And here's the bombshell. She asks if he's someone who was summoned from a different world. Spica tells him she suspected something was off from the very beginning. He knows way too little about this world, and to be blunt, his strength is just not normal. It's almost like he has a rare, unique ability, a classic trait of a summoned hero. But he shakes his head. His power isn't from some unique ability. He decides it's time to come clean, telling her that her guess was spot on. He is, in fact, someone summoned from another world, a peaceful place without any monsters. His family ran a dojo teaching martial arts, and his father was his harshest trainer. He learned all sorts of fighting styles, and now his only goal is simple. He just wants to find a way to get back to his own world. Spica listens to everything quietly, then sadly nods, saying that she understands. He asks if she has any info that could help, and she remembers a dark rumor. Apparently every single summoned person is, without exception, enslaved by the nation. Used as tools for war, she thinks that royalty or other powerful figures might know more. So how does he meet these people? Simple, he has to become a legend. If he becomes a highly trusted adventurer, he might get quests directly from them. The path is clear. He has to steadily raise his adventure rank no matter what. But he knows the risks, even if he does manage to meet them. There's no guarantee they'd even know how to send him back home. And if his true identity gets exposed, he'll be enslaved. This is no easy mission. Just then Spica kneels down in front of him and asks if she can make a request. He nods and she tells him that when the time comes for him to finally go home. He's totally taken aback by this next part, and honestly so are we. She wants him to take her with him. A foreign world might be too tough, and that they'd only attract unwanted attention. He starts to explain, but she cuts him off, pleading that she's been prepared for this moment since the day she chose to be his slave. Touched by her fierce dedication, he smiles, stands up, and gently pats her head. He promises her that when he goes back, he's taking her with him. Overjoyed, she swears to serve him loyally, no matter where they end up. But overcome with emotion, she suddenly stumbles and lines right against him. He quickly asks if she's okay. He figures using all that healing magic must have completely drained her. But she steps back, apologizing and saying she's just a little tired from all the skinning work. Tucking his boots into his magic bag, he tells her he'll handle the trip. And with that, he carefully lifts her into his arms. Blushing, she stammers that she can't let him do this. But when he asks if she's sure, she admits she's actually pretty happy about it. He smiles, telling her to think of it as a reward for her hard work. She shyly agrees. As he carries Spa, his mind races. He'd been planning to use his gold to go back to his world and just live a quiet life off the grid. Now he wonders if that's even the right path anymore. He makes a silent vow, no matter what world they land in, he will protect Spa. The day after tomorrow, he arrives at the weapon shop, where Adolf greets him with a huge grin. The shopkeeper says he's been waiting for him and asks how his auction items did. Adolf tells him they did perfectly, the kobold pipe and the orc treasure sword. Together they sold for a massive 710,000 rhea. Now hold on, because this number right here is about to change everything. Adolf explains that swords like that usually go for 700,000 rhea since they're so rare. That high price was no accident. Smiling, he does the math in his head. That's roughly 7.1 million yen. He could actually make a real living here. Adolf then asks if he's checked out the slave traders yet. He says no, and Adolf gets all excited, pointing out that with his new fortune, he could easily buy around 10 slaves. He's stunned, but Adolf recommends a muscular male dwarf for their raw strength. He just says he'll think about it and thanks the shopkeeper for his help. Adolf just nods and tells him to come back anytime. Walking outside, he starts to consider it. The possibility of buying more slaves, and what if they were female slaves? Okay, I know what you're thinking. With 10 of them, he'd practically have a harem. He remembers how Spa struggled with the workload on their last hunting quest. So yeah, maybe getting a few more party members wouldn't be such a bad idea. With more people, they could grind for money way faster. He decides to look into it. He also remembers that in his games, he could recruit up to 99 heroines. In this world, maybe building a team of 100 companions isn't just a fantasy. Stopping right in front of the slave shop, he thinks about his goals: revenge, wealth, and a chill life with Spa. He smiles at the thought. Meanwhile, back at the inn, Spa is sleeping soundly. He walks into the slave shop, where he's greeted by a man named Jill Anderson. This guy is a human with a high-level recorder profession and a unique 3-star slave contract ability. Jill asks if this is his first time here, and our hero gets to work. He fills out the paperwork, taking note that Jill also possesses the appraisal skill. His new slave contract ability gets him inside. Let's see who he's here for. As they pass cages full of slaves, Jill suggests he buy a dwarf. Apparently, they're incredibly useful for taking on difficult quests. But he's taken aback. The dwarves all have huge builds and intense glares. Yeah, not exactly friendly. He tells Jill he'd prefer a female slave instead. Jill explains that's not a great idea right now, since a local noble has been buying up all the women, sending the prices through the roof. Bad timing. Still, he asks to see who's available. Jill points him over. He's led toward a room and told to wait while they bring out a few candidates. He steps into the waiting room, curious about who's about to walk through that door. A moment later, Jill presents a large woman with horns and scales. She's a member of the dragonette race, known for their insane combat skills. Jill tells him the minimum bid for her starts at 70,000 rhea and asks if it's an auction. It is. Jill confirms that if no one else bids within 48 hours, she's his. He can tell she's powerful, but he feels like she isn't quite what he needs. He imagines Spa would be absolutely terrified at the sight of a dragonet. Since he only needs help with skinning monsters, he'd prefer someone closer. To Spa's size, he asks if there's anyone else and Jill replies that there is. There is one more, but her current bid is 700,000 Rhea. Now this is where the real story begins. He's floored by the price. It's a massive amount, but now he's really curious. He says he can afford it and asks to see her. Jill readily agrees to bring her out. After escorting the dragonet woman back, Jill returns just a moment later. He brings out the new candidate and thanks him for his patience. Our guy is stunned. He meets the woman Sylphia Lenberg, a beautiful lady and the daughter of a former knight. He notices Sylphia is about his age and gorgeous, but something is very wrong. Her eyes, they're completely hollow, as if all the life has been drained from them. He asks if she was a knight, and trust me, her backstory is where everything clicks into place. Jill confirms it. Sylphia comes from a prestigious family of knights who once served the royals. Trained since childhood, she was a master with a sword. Remembering what Spica told him about the royal family's power, he wonders if she might be a clue. A clue to returning to his own world. Curious, he asks Jill why she became a slave. Jill explains that she's from Lumberg, a nation that was defeated by Lordland. It became a vassal state about 6 months ago, and Sylphia had been hiding out. She was in the mountains when she was finally captured and sold into slavery. Now he thinks it's unlikely Lordland knows anything about otherworldly summoning. But even the slimmest chance of getting home is a chance worth taking. So he tells Jill he's interested in buying Sylphia and asks to speak with her. Alone, Jill warns him that Sylphia has some personality issues. She might act incredibly rudely toward him. He pretty much figured that. He guesses that's why she's under a slave contract, one that stops her from showing emotion. Or even speaking. Jill confirms his suspicion without hesitation. Sylphia is forbidden from speaking or emoting because otherwise, she'd be troublesome. But he persists, asking Jill to grant her just a little bit of freedom. Just for a moment so he can actually speak with her. Jill is clearly reluctant. But he finally agrees when our hero makes a solid point. And trust me, you'll want to see what she says. Alright, let's jump into this tense negotiation. But Jill reminds him that the house takes zero responsibility for any disrespect she's about to show. He assures Jill that he understands. With a whisper, Jill deactivates the spell and bows, saying he'll step out for about 10 minutes. The second Jill leaves, Sylphia's entire demeanor changes. Regaining her senses, she glares at him. Coldly, she demands to know exactly what he's trying to pull. Does he think this temporary freedom is some kind of kindness? Or that a cheap trick like this would make her open up to him? She scoffs, accusing him of seeing her as just another toy to play with. He calmly says that's not his intention, but she's not buying it for a second. And here we go, she swings a vicious kick right at him, screaming that all Lordland people are trash who just use others for their own gain. But he catches her foot midair easy. It stops just inches from his face. He lets her go and clarifies that he's not from Lordland or from this world at all. Shocked, she drops her guard. Is he seriously from another world? He confirms it. He explains he was summoned here and wants to buy her for information on how to get back home. Sylphia just scoffs at the idea. Calling it ridiculous, she asks why he'd ever reveal something so dangerous even if it was true. She yells, reminding him he must know how otherworldly beings are treated in this world. He calmly asks if he's right to assume they're used as tools for war, adding that he's well aware of the danger, and that, he explains, is exactly why he told her. I know what you're thinking, and yeah, he's taking a huge risk, thinking it's the fastest way to earn her trust. His brutal honesty leaves her completely silent as she processes his insane plan. He adds that she's already caused enough trouble for the trading house. So even if she exposed his secret, they'd probably just dismiss it as nonsense. It's a calculated risk. She remarks that he's being incredibly honest for a negotiator, especially by revealing his hand so openly. But she admits something. She totally misjudged him. She thought he was just another creep, but now she sees he's different. This actually catches him off guard, giving him a guilty flashback to when he asked a girl to see her underwear. He quickly shakes it off. Sylphia then asks if his only goal is returning to his original world. He confirms it, asking if she knows anything that could help him. He tells her if she has useful information. He will place a bid on her, and if her intel is good, he might even free her from slavery. His offer surprises her, but she admits it's a very appealing deal. To be direct, she says she knows some of the information he's looking for. Relieved, he turns around, thanks her, and says he's going to place his bid. She asks why he's not suspicious, but he just says she has no reason to lie. After all, she knows the risks involved. Since otherworldly summoners are known for having rare and unique abilities. She agrees, and he adds that for the record, he also has the slave contract skill. So if she's thinking of running, she might as well forget about it. She acknowledges his cautious planning and asks for his name. He tells her it's Kono Yudo. She repeats it thoughtfully. And just like that, you and I can see a dangerous partnership starting to form. Her words echo in his mind, but for now he just keeps quiet and thanks her. He promises to come back soon. Outside, Jill asks if he's all done. He confirms, telling Jill to get the bidding process started. Jill nods, saying he'll bring Esfia back in a moment, and asks him to wait. Alone with his thoughts, Celia's words start playing on a loop. Serving him as a slave, the idea definitely sparks something inside him. He quickly reminds himself he promised to set her free, but still. Having her as a companion would be a massive advantage. Her power alone is huge. A huge help in any fight, and on top of that, she's beautiful in a different way. He dreams of adding her to his 100-member harem, but even he admits. If he gets her freedom and the info he needs, that's a win-win. Just then something catches his eye. He goes to investigate. A little later, he gets back to the inn. Esfia's awake, and trust me, this next scene is something else. She's apologizing like crazy for oversleeping, bowing over and over. She insists a slave shouldn't be so careless, but he reassures her. He tells her it's fine, she was just tired from the quest, but she's not having it. She actually starts begging him to punish her. Reluctantly, he agrees. A few minutes pass. And now Esfia is wearing some brand new underwear, admiring how comfy they feel. She asks if they were pricey. He says nope, they were on sale. He bought them hoping she'd wear them. He smiles, thinking to himself. A maid outfit or even a bunny suit would be next. For now, though. He needs to save up for Celia's auction. She thanks him, asking if this is her real punishment. He says not yet, and tells her to stay perfectly still for a moment. And here we go, using wind magic, he lifts her skirt, revealing the new underwear. Esfia is stunned. She stammers, asking why he'd use magic for that. His answer is simple. He just wanted to see if he could, and instead of being mad, she's actually thrilled. She gets it now. Excitedly, she asks if this is some kind of magic training. Seeing her enthusiasm, she encourages him to use her body as practice for controlling his powers. He clarifies that it wasn't quite what he had in mind. But hey, a little embarrassment might actually make for good practice. Seeing how determined she is to serve, he decides to just play along. Getting into character, he uses his wind magic again, lifting her skirt and teasing her. He asks what's with the underwear, like she's trying to tempt him. You and I both know who bought them. She insists that's not it, reminding him he's the one who told her to wear them. He pretends to be mad, scolding her for talking back and declaring punishment time. Each time he says it, whoosh, the wind magic lifts her skirt again. They go back and forth like this for a while. After about 10 minutes. They're both completely drained from using so much magic. They definitely overdid it. They just burst out laughing, learning that even fun magic has its limits. The next day, he wakes up totally exhausted and tells Esfia he must have passed out hard. His whole body just feels worn out from all that training. She replies it's probably just his lack of experience with magic. His power will get stronger if he practices every day. He gets it. It's just like training back in his old world. He just needs to keep at it. A moment later, they arrive at the forest, and Esfia takes a look around. And just like that, she stops dead, pointing to the side. She can smell a demon. Let's see how our duo handles this. He praises her sharp senses as he spots a bee fairy. And a scissor crab. Spica warns him they have to take down both. But they need to be careful. The scissor crab's claws are no joke. They're strong enough to slice right through a person's wrist, while bee fairies. They aren't fighters, but they use healing magic, making them a huge pain to deal with. He's surprised. Even after being away from town, Spica seems to know everything. She explains she's read about them and heard stories from customers at the inn. He just grins, eyeing up the monsters and asking if he should target the bee fairy first. But Spica quickly warns him that bee fairies will bolt the moment you get close. You'd need a bow to take them down properly. Ignoring her completely, he just walks forward. Now watch this, he just shouts that they're in his way. Spica's panicking a little. She reminds him the scissor crab has a hard outer shell, nearly impossible to cut with a sword. But as he swings his blade, the crab is just sliced apart with zero effort. He keeps slashing, easily chopping the scissor crabs into tiny little pieces, leaving Spica absolutely stunned. She was just about to tell him to aim for their joints. As the bee fairies start to fly away, Spica yells for him not to let them escape. He immediately launches himself into the air, slashing one of the bees and lands perfectly. But he spots two more getting away. He knows his magic is running low. But if he gives chase, he'd have to leave Spica all alone. Too risky. Thinking fast, he hurls his sword, managing to pierce one of the fleeing bees. He apologizes to Spica for letting the last one escape, but she's not mad. She reassures him that bee fairies are incredibly fast and almost impossible to catch. Still, she has to ask, did he really think he could keep up with them? He responds with pure, unshakable confidence, and she realizes he's right. His raw combat instincts let him close the gap on the bee and annihilate the crab. His fighting style might be messy, but his instincts, absolutely top tier. Hours later, the hunt continues, and Spica can only marvel at his efficiency. She shouts out, completely amazed at how many monsters he's taken down so quickly. He casually asks if it's too much, then helps her skin the creatures. He's thinking he's just secured the 710,000 Rhea needed to win the bid for Sylphia. But there's always a chance someone could outbid him. He has to keep earning more. Spica then asks if it's true he sold some weapons the other day. He tells her he earned 710,000 Rhea from it, which completely blows her mind. But when he mentions he already spent it all, she's stunned. She asks him if he used the entire fortune on her underwear, and if it could possibly be worth that much. Okay, you gotta love this part. Mortified, she bows over and over to the monster pile, vowing to repay him. Panicking, he rushes to correct the massive misunderstanding, assuring her he hasn't actually spent the money yet, he's just planning to. Later, they arrive at a slave shop. Spica looks around, asking what this place is. He explains that it's the slave trading house. Her face immediately drops. She clings to him, terrified, asking if he's planning on selling her. He quickly assures her he would never, ever give her away. He was actually here with the intention of buying another slave. He explains that he feels like he put too much pressure on her with the recent quests and thought some more help would be a good thing. He figures it'll lighten the load for everyone, but more importantly, by pure chance. He's found someone who might know the way back to his world, a goal you and I know he's had from day one. Naturally, she's surprised. He walks to the door, explaining that this slave promised him info, but only if he bids on her and sets her free. He wants Spica to meet her, so as he steps into the room, he senses someone and instinctively activates his evil eye skill. The man's name pops up, Jish Bernstein, a vampire, no current occupation. And he's got a unique 5-star ability called Alarm Bells. Jish must have felt it because he turns around, approaches, and comments on seeing him here. With a slave, flustered, Spica quickly clarifies that they aren't even close to that kind of relationship. Our guy just sighs, telling her to stop looking so pleased. Then Jish stops, lands in way too close, and makes a remark, admiring his muscular build and asking if he's a trained fighter. He says he's never seen a physique like it. The attention is weird, especially as Jish's expression gets unnervingly intense. And yeah, I know what you're thinking, this is getting creepy. Just then Jill interrupts, calling Jish Sir Andrea, which confuses him even more. Jish apologizes for his behavior, claiming he just couldn't help admiring his physique. With that, he leaves. Spica, impressed, remarks that Jish must be someone special to recognize his strength at a single glance, but our hero is deep in thought. Jill called him Andrea, but his skill said Jish. He immediately suspects this vampire is disguising himself, so he asks Jill if this man is the noble who's been buying up all the female slaves in town. Surprised, Jill confirms it but asks him to keep it quiet. She explains that Jish's interest started about 2 months ago and he's earned quite a reputation. That timing it clicks. He remembers Alia mentioning something about how teenage girls have been kidnapped over the past 2 months. Pay attention because the pieces are connecting. The timeline perfectly matches the incident reported at the guild. This leads him to a dark conclusion. If Jish is involved, he's targeting those girls for their blood. Just then, Jill informs him that Jish just placed a new bid on Esfia, raising her price to a shocking 720,000 Ria. The situation just became critical. Esfia is now in danger. Jill asks if he wants to counter. The new starting bid will be 730,000 Ria, without a moment's hesitation. He agrees, furiously vowing to himself that he will never let that vampire get his hands on her. A moment later, he introduces Spica to Esfia, explaining that Esfia was a knight. She's from the Lummer family and they need her help to learn about the summoning. Spica greets Esfia warmly, introducing herself and proudly declaring that she is Yudo's finest slave, which makes him tell her not to make him sound insane. Spica then asks Esfia if she can see her hand for a moment. Esfia agrees, and just as Spica suspected, her hands are covered in small scratches. Spica immediately uses her holy magic to heal them, telling Esfia it should help ease the pain. Grateful, Esfia flexes her hands, thanking her and noting that they feel much better. Sylphia then mentions that she heard about the new bid that came in earlier. Yudo explains that a certain noble has been their main competition. But he reassures her not to worry. He thinks to himself it's probably better. Not to mention that her other potential buyer is a bloodthirsty vampire model. To make her nervous, Sylphia just nodded, then did something totally unexpected. She addressed him as Lord Yudo, completely catching him by surprise. Then she asked if he planned to keep her as his slave, confusing him even more. She clarified that for an unprotected woman the world is a brutal place, and besides, a knight needs a master to serve, someone to dedicate her life to. He tells her he's no king or powerful man, so having a knight feels strange. He thinks she's overestimating him, but Sylphia completely disagrees. She tells him she's seen countless slaves in her life. She knows the look. The look of those serving arrogant masters, worked until they break with no hope of escape. But Spica, by contrast, has eyes filled with kindness and life. Now watch this, Spica chimes in, grabbing their attention. She confidently tells Sylphia that she's 100% correct. Both Yudo and Sylphia are caught off guard as Spica excitedly hypes up her master. She says not only is he physically and mentally strong, but he also paid off all her debts and has a massive heart to go with it. Just as she's about to add that he's a little weird, he covers her mouth. Spica then shouts that the greatest joy in her entire life is being Yudo's slave. Sylphia smiles, realizing she was right about her. She admits that she's becoming more and more fond of him, too. So Spica suggests it would be great to have another slave around. One who truly recognizes Yudo's worth, inviting Sylphia to join them. Sylphia says it sounds wonderful, but only if Yudo himself agrees. Yudo sees no reason to object and says he'd be happy to have her. Visibly moved, Sylphia kneels before him and pledges herself to his service. He's pleasantly surprised, noticing how shy yet sincere she looks in that moment. Later, Spica tells him she's thrilled to meet someone who admires him just as much as she does. He agrees, saying it's nice to have Sylphia with them. Spica nods, but you and I can see what's going on here. She thinks Sylphia might challenge her position as number one. Especially since Sylphia is beautiful, strong, and as Spica notices, enviously well endowed. The next day they head over to the guild. Emilia greets them, informing him he's now ranked up to QR7. She mentions there's an urgent state quest available if he's interested. Knowing they need the money for Sylphia's bid, he checks out the details. It's a kobold extermination mission with a reward of 4,000 Ria. That's for every 10 kobolds they eliminate. Spica notes that this rate is 5 times higher than usual. Emilia explains that kobold attacks have been increasing. And here's why: Gilder, the orc lord of the Raggle Mountains, was just killed. An unknown assassin took him out, and the kobolds are using the power vacuum as a chance to expand their territory. Yudo freezes, wondering if Gilder was the one who summoned him to this world in the first place. Shaken, he confirms with Emilia that he will take the quest. She says she understands and will handle all the paperwork for him. He tries to reassure himself that the situation is just a coincidence and has nothing to do with him. A short time later, they arrive at the caves in the Rocky Hills. Spica uses her heightened sense of smell to scan the area and warns him to be careful. That overwhelming scent of evil hit him hard, and a split second later, a sound erupted behind them. He spins around to see kobolds pouring out from the shadows, led by Laris Rhodius. This was the kobold chief, a guy with a unique 3-star ability called transparency. Laris shouts at them to drop all their stuff, promising they just might walk away alive. Panicked, Spa yells a warning, explaining that these aren't your average kobolds. They're special monsters with insane abilities, and she thinks they should retreat, right now. But our hero just activates his evil eye skill to get a read on the chief. And what he finds is that Laris's only special skill is that transparency. All it does is let him and his surroundings turn invisible. Confidently, he smirks. He tells Spa to chill out because they are absolutely going to win this. And with about 50 kobolds here, this is just a perfect chance to make some quick cash. Laris just sneers, calling him a greedy human before ordering his tribe to attack. And just like that, the kobolds start launching a volley of rocks right at them. He orders Spa to get down, and the glowing mark on her hand forces her to comply. She reluctantly ducks just as he swings his sword to meet the incoming barrage. With a single powerful strike, he deflects one of the massive stones. It rockets back toward the kobolds, smashing one right in the head. He keeps striking, each hit precisely calculated to ricochet into the enemy ranks with lethal force. Spa just stares in total awe as every stone he deflects becomes a deadly projectile. The kobolds are dropping like flies, killed instantly on impact. But then one of the deflected rocks smacks Spa right in the back, startling her. He quickly apologizes. To his shock, she just laughs it off, shouting about how incredible that was. But as she's saying it, she gets nailed again on the head and back. He can't help but be impressed by her toughness. Spa is definitely a badass. Realizing he's outmatched, Laris yells in frustration, demanding to know what kind of monster he is. He then orders the remaining kobolds to fall back. Our hero tells Spa to get started. Time to gather all the materials and loot from the bodies while he hunts down the rest. She warns him not to go too far, thinking this ambush was a deliberate trap for adventurers. But he's not listening, totally fixated on the chase. He tells her Laris has probably been hoarding treasure from all his past victims. As he charges ahead, Spa picks up her knife, thinking about how intense he is. And I know what you're thinking. She's wondering if he'd be that intense with her one day. Suddenly, his voice cuts through her thoughts, saying he's almost got the leader. Startled, she stammers out a yes and quickly follows after him. He explains that only the boss is left. She points ahead, focused. She says even though she can't see him, she can smell him in the room up ahead. He activates his evil eye, scanning the area, and there, in a dark corner, he spots the faint outline of Laris and taunts the invisible kobold chief. He tells him straight up, "I can see right through your little trick." Realizing he's been found out, Laris deactivates his transparency skill. He recognizes our hero as the bearer of the evil eye and tries to strike a deal. He offers up all his treasure in exchange for the safety of his comrades. Our hero walks toward the pile and sees a ton of valuable items, elemental armor, protection rings, and even a rare black treasure necklace. Spa gasps. But as they stare at the loot, trust me, you are not ready for what happens next. Laris is grinning, thinking he's about to land a cheap shot from behind, but Yudo. Trust me, you're gonna wanna see this. He just spins around, unfazed, and lands a vicious elbow strike. Laris slams into the wall and dies on impact, leaving Spa absolutely stunned. He just took out a named monster, feared even by the realm's knights, with a single bare-handed blow. She asks him if he knew all along that Laris would break his promise. He explains that Laris's leadership style proved he was capable, but utterly ruthless. Even if Laris had handed over the treasure, there was no guarantee he'd let them live. It was simply better to eliminate the threat than to trust empty promises. Yudo then tells her that a true leader does whatever it takes to protect his comrades. Even if it means making the hard choices, something he'd expect to do himself. With that settled, he immediately starts collecting all the treasures from the room. He shoves them into his magic bag, telling Spa to grab anything else valuable so they can leave. Watching him, she thinks to herself that he embodies the very definition of a leader. She starts to wonder if Yudo was truly summoned to this world to become a hero. She recalls a line from one of her favorite books about a hero and his companions. They once saved the entire world, and inspired, she wonders if Yudo could be like that. Is he destined for that kind of greatness? Meanwhile, as Spa admires his leadership. I know what you're thinking, and no, Yudo's got a much more mischievous thought brewing. He's thinking how useful his transparency skill is, and decides he'll give the necklace to Spa. His mind races with all the possibilities as his newly awakened, slightly sadistic side begins to emerge. A little later, they return to the Adventurers Guild. They present the haul of kobold knives they collected, and the sheer number shocks everyone. After counting them all, Emilia confirms they turned in quite the impressive amount. A grand total of 170 kobold knives, announcing his QR is going up immediately. All the way to 10, Spa excitedly tells him he's now officially a bronze-ranked adventurer. He's confused and asks what that means, so Emilia starts to explain. The title is awarded to adventurers who complete over 10 quests, and it comes with benefits. Like increased rewards for every quest, but just as Emilia is about to continue. A man shouts from across the room, "Hold on a second," and everyone turns to look. And would you look at that, it's a green-haired guy accusing Yudo of straight-up cheating. His blonde friend beside him adds that the urgent quest had only been posted that morning. There's no way anyone could have hunted 170 kobolds that fast. The green-haired man claims he must have stockpiled all the knives in advance. He argues the quest was about taking down the kobolds who were actively attacking people. The blonde just laughs, adding that the knives would be completely pointless if they weren't obtained legitimately. Spa quietly whispers to Yudo. She asks what they should do, reminding him they only hunted about 50 of them. The rest were just collected from the den, but Yudo replies calmly. In situations like this, he says, confidence is key. He turns to the two men. He tells them, without a doubt, he gathered every single one of those knives today. This only infuriates the green-haired man more, who screams at him to prove it. Emilia anxiously steps in, asking everyone to stop because they're disturbing the guild. Ignoring her completely, the men taunt Yudo, accusing him of just trying to show off. They sneer that he's just trying to win over Emilia, but he never could. She's the adventurer's idol, they say, and completely out of his league. You and I both know they just messed up big time. Yudo tried to de-escalate, but the green-haired man wasn't having it and launched a punch, yelling at him to admit he cheated. In a flash, a massive hand shot out, grabbing the guy's head as everyone stared in shock. And that hand, it belonged to Emilia, her expression calm but deadly serious. Spa and Yudo were horrified. They knew this was her special ability in action. Emilia reminded the man that she'd already warned them to knock it off. Then, with zero effort, she flung him across the room right into a shelf. Now pay attention. Emilia calmly warned the other guy any more trouble from him would earn a permanent ban from the guild. All said with a soft, polite smile. Yugo then faced the blonde guy and reached into his bag. He pulled out Lycerus's unique knife, holding it high for all to see. He declared that since he took down the Cobalt leader, things should calm down. And asked if that was finally proof enough. He even suggested that if they had doubts, they could get the knife's origin checked out at any certified shop. Humiliated, the blonde man cursed under his breath and just ran off, completely defeated. Yudo apologized to Emilia for all the drama, but she just shook her head. She insisted that she was the one who should be sorry. Shyly admitting it was a shame they had to witness such an ugly scene in the guild. But he assured her it wasn't unpleasant at all, adding that he actually found it impressive. He admired her incredible strength and firm character. Internally, he thought the mix of Emilia's elegance and her raw power was absolutely fascinating. Hearing him speak so frankly shocked Spa, who gave him a worried look while Emilia just blushed and thanked him, moving on to explain the reward for the quest. Yugo told Spa he was sweaty from their hike up the mountain and would head to their room. She agreed, and they quickly made their way back. Inside the bathroom, Spa was in the shower, washing away the fatigue from their long day. After turning the water off, she began drying her hair, thinking about Emilia. It seemed like the guild girl was totally falling for Yudo, and while it was nice people were seeing his true worth, she couldn't shake this weird feeling. Was she becoming less important to him? Shaking her head, she decided not to overthink it. As Yudo's personal slave, she'd just have to prove her value through hard work. After dressing, she stepped out of the bathroom and announced that she was all ready, offering Yudo a massage if he wanted one. Confused, she looked around the empty room. Okay, I know what you're thinking. He's right there smiling, using his newly acquired transparency skill to become completely invisible. Seeing her look lost, he decided to sneak up on her for a little surprise attack. He quietly moved closer, thinking this was a great way to teach her the terror of an invisible enemy. Just as Spa was calling out his name, he gently blew on her ear, making her jump out of her skin. She spun around, totally confused, while he slipped behind her, targeting the base of her tail, a known weak spot for lichens. He tapped the area again and again, causing her to twitch and shiver before falling down. Laughing, she begged him to stop, and he realized things were getting a little risky. But then he noticed her underwear, lifting the fabric just slightly to see the color. Startled, he thought to himself that he didn't remember ever buying her that. And you and I both know he found her choice unexpectedly charming. Okay, let's jump into this awkward moment. Spica is flustered, asking what he's doing. He drops his invisibility, reappearing and asking how she even knew it was him. She explains that lichens have a crazy good sense of smell. Besides, who else would be there? He's stunned, having no idea her nose was that powerful. And now he's frustrated. His best invisibility skill is useless against her. But seeing his reaction, Spica panics, thinking she disappointed him, and starts apologizing. She stammers that she's a useless slave, begging for him to forgive her. She even offers to make it up with a massage, but in response, he just activates his transparency skill and vanishes again. Spica gasps. This makes her even more distressed, and she frantically searches the room for him. He just stays silent, finding her panicked reaction kind of adorable. He decides to watch a little longer. Meanwhile, on the city streets, we meet Jish. Pay close attention. This is where our story takes a dark turn as he spots a flyer. It's a quest notice about a string of kidnappings that have been targeting women. He realizes too much attention is on these incidents. It's time to leave the city. He crumples the flyer, tosses it, and heads straight for the slave trading house. Jish has already chosen his final meal in this city, a woman named Cilia. See, this guy has lived for over 500 years by stealing human bodies. And in all that time, Cilia's beauty is in his top 3. Jill greets him at the door. The owner politely informs him that the shop is closing up for the night. Jish says he has urgent business and needs to get out of the city. He's here to pick up the slave he bid on earlier, but Jill has some bad news. He tells Jish that Cilia now has a brand new bidder. Jish's eyes narrow. He asks if it was the man with the lichen girl, and yeah, we know who that is. Jill tries to maintain customer privacy, but that just angers Jish, who slaps him hard. He furiously demands the name of the other bidder, and Jill is terrified. Finally, Jill cracks and gives him the name, Kono Yudo. Jish considers Yudo a dead man. He grabs Jill by the collar, ordering him to transfer Cilia's slave contract now. If he refuses, Jish threatens to kill him right on the spot. Dragging Jill towards the cages, Jish thinks about Yudo's impressive build. He thinks Yudo would be the ideal next host body for him. He enters Cilia's cage. Seeing his chance, he commands Jill to hurry. The terrified owner complies. Stammering, Jill quickly unlocks Cilia's handcuffs as she recognizes Jish. He was the noble who bid on her. She's confused the auction wasn't over. Before she can process it, Jish bites his own finger, letting the blood drip. It lands on her hand, forcing the slave contract to begin. Her thoughts immediately race to Yudo, wondering what he would do. Jish yanks her close by the chain around her neck, declaring that she is his now. She's his property. First, she'll be used as bait to lure in Yudo. And after that, you and I both know she'll become his nourishment model.
specifically to create stories and translate them into other languages. So after having the translation and checking the translation in detail, and I gave this translation to our partner abroad to create audio and process the audio, we have an audio file like this as for the images. That appear in our videos are collected from Google Images, and then we will only select images that fall under usage rights allowed for reuse and modification. We use Google's rights filtering tool according to the